All right, so ready to dive in. Today we are looking at his three daughters.
Oh, yeah, the new Netflix one.
That's the one. With
The sisters.
yeah, it's got everyone talking, and I think we are really going to unpack why.
Yeah.
So, family drama,
Always a good time.
right. But this one's centered around these three incredibly different sisters, and their father is dying.
Okay. Heavy stuff.
Definitely. But here's the twist. You never actually see the father on screen.
Really?
Nope. The whole story unfolds through the sisters. Their interactions, let's be honest, their arguments. It's all about them.
Wow, so how do they, create that tension, that feeling of him being there if he's never actually shown?
That's the brilliance of it. And it's something both of the reviews we are looking at today, Screen Rant and Screen Daily, both point out this film just goes there with the reality of death. Head first. It's not shying away from those raw, uncomfortable moments.
Interesting.
And it premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. Always a good sign, right? Critics were buzzing.
Right. So it's got the hype. But going back to what you were saying about how it tackles death, how does it do it?
Well, Screen Rant uses this word beautiful to describe it.
Mm.
And I think what they're getting at is the honesty of it all.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Like, those awkward silences you get in a hospital room?
Mm.
Or those anxieties that nobody wants to say out loud? That's what this film captures.
Yeah, like those unspoken things you only really get if you've experienced a loss up close. It's not all dramatic goodbyes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the quiet moments that really get you.
Right.
The weight of it all, even when nobody's saying a word.
And speaking of unspoken things, Screen Daily made this really smart observation that the film is actually as much about the absence created by death. The empty space left behind, more so than the act of dying itself.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that totally reminded me of that scene, I think Screen Daily mentions it, where Elizabeth Olsen's character has this whole monologue about how art can never really capture the emptiness that comes after a death,
It's always focused on the moment itself, but never what it feels like to live with that void afterwards.
Exactly.
Powerful stuff.
It is. Okay, so we have this really strong theme of grief and absence, but then there's another layer because this is all playing out against the backdrop of these super complicated, messy sibling relationships. I mean, Screen Rant even calls the performances an emotional slap in the face, which honestly, they're not wrong.
Intense, huh?
Oh yeah, these sisters do not hold back. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, it steers clear of those typical family drama cliches, It's not overblown. It's subtle. It's real.
You can just feel the weight of their shared history, right?
Totally. And then visually, the filmmaking just adds to that. Screen Daily points out how the characters are often, isolated within the frame.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's deliberate, mirroring their emotional distance from each other.
So smart. It's like they can be in the same room, but they're a million miles apart emotionally.
100%.
Okay.
And speaking of things that are spot on, the acting. I mean, Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen. Come on.
They're all fantastic.
It's amazing. Both reviews were blown away, and rightfully so. Screen Rant breaks down each performance. And it's true. Coon's got that directness, Olsen, that anxious energy, and then Lyonne, she's got this almost guarded thing going on. You just know there's a lot going on beneath the surface.
And it's not just that they're good individually, but it's how they work together. Screen Daily said, they have these little tics that become their characters, That speaks volumes about how much they disappeared into these roles.
It's like you forget they're acting. It's that good.
And then on top of that, you've got the sound design, or actually the lack of it sometimes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Screen Daily pointed this out, how they use silence to make things even more intense.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Well, remember how you could always hear that heart monitor beeping? The father's...
Oh, right. Yeah, constantly in the background, right?
Exactly. You couldn't escape it.
It's like this constant reminder that he's slipping away.
Right. Kind of creepy, but also, brilliant, the way it just builds that tension.
For sure. For sure. But then you have Rachel, right? Natasha Lyonne's character.
Yeah, what about her?
She's the one who keeps searching for silence. She actually seeks it out.
Oh, you're right. And that contrast is kind of amazing when you think about it. You have this constant beeping, can't get away from it, but then she finds these pockets of quiet.
Yeah, it's like her way of coping, with all the craziness and emotion, finding some peace in the middle of it all.
Definitely. And that makes me think of another thing Screen Daily brought up about the ending. They called it, unrealistic, almost like a wish fulfillment kind of thing.
I can see that. It did throw me a little. I mean, the whole movie feels so real, so grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ending is like, wait a minute.
Right. Like, it almost came out of nowhere. But Screen Daily suggested it might be on purpose. Like, we are seeing things through a specific character's eyes at that point.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, whose fantasy are we watching? And what does that tell us?
See, now that's a film that makes you think. It's not just entertainment. It's like, it gets under your skin a little. Like a good book you can't put down.
Totally. It's those little details, those what-ifs that stick with you. And that's what we try to do here in the deep dive, right?
Exactly. Going beyond the surface. Finding those hidden layers.
It's like we are giving our listeners all the best tools. Here's your magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Here are your notes. Go find something interesting.
And with a film like this, there's so much to uncover. It really stays with you. It makes you think differently about things.
You know, it's funny. For a film that mostly takes place in one apartment, it feels so much bigger, you know?
That's the beauty of good storytelling. It can take something small and make it resonate with everyone. Those big themes, grief, family, trying to connect with people who are basically strangers, even though you are related. We've all been there.
It's like they zoomed in on this one family, but they are reflecting something really universal.
Exactly. And by not getting bogged down with a bunch of subplots or whatever, it forces you to really pay attention to those little moments, the awkward silences, the things left unsaid. That's where the real stuff is.
And those are the moments that are hard to watch sometimes, but they're also the most human, you know? That's where the connection happens.
And that's why His Three Daughters is more than just a movie. It's an experience.
So to our listeners, if you're in the mood for something that will stay with you, make you think, maybe even shed a tear or two,
This is the one. Amazing acting, a story about family and loss that's done right. And by the end, you'll be thinking about all the big questions.
and who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to start your own deep dive conversation with someone. That's what we like to hear. It really is amazing how they do that. Like you said, it's mostly set in just this one apartment.
Right. It's a small setting, but it makes you think about big things.
Exactly. And those performances. We've got to talk about those performances more. They really blew me away, especially Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, she was incredible. I mean, they all were, but she brought something really special.
I felt like I was right there with her, you know, going through all those emotions.
And that's the power of a film like this. It doesn't shy away from those raw human moments. It invites you in.
It does. It makes you feel things.
Yeah.
Which, isn't that what we want from a movie? To be moved. To think about things differently.
Absolutely. It's not just about escaping for a couple of hours. It's about engaging with something meaningful, something that stays with you.
And this one, it definitely does that. So to our listeners out there, if you're looking for a movie that's going to make you feel something.
Put His Three Daughters on your watch list. It's a must-see. You won't regret it.
And who knows, maybe it will even inspire you to start your own deep dive conversation. Until next time.